Okay, I got to record this too because it must be my network is the issue here. Okay, I just limited my video upload, so that part of the conversation may be gone. I will restart. Um, what in the world? Why I did it? Anyways, I'll upload the recorded video to YouTube. Twitch, come on. So, when I went to Africa, I was hosted by an African family. And I treat people, I was already basically humanist at this point. I was still learning, I was young, and in a very open minded sense, I let people tell me who they were. I was very open about who I was, right? Like I love talking about myself. And that became sort of a way of for them to, characterize and dismiss me because it was so apparent from their general environment. But I connect with everybody who I could when I was young, and I still do. I mean, the point is now I know I have to keep meeting new people, especially young people who are showing me that what's shifting in culture. There's a lot of change in culture. The technology has had a marked impact on people's ways of interacting. And, unfortunately, we are just starving the next generation in the West, whereas in the East, they're much more effectively engaging their young. Um, it's a joke, really. I mean, the West has just left us to cannibalize each other, while the East has a constructive, um, harmony centered approach, and that's why they're racing ahead of us, and they deserve to. They're winning. So how do we adapt to it ourselves? Is the fundamental point of my art. That's why I tell you this story about my trip to South Africa when I was installing a robot to. Yeah, it was when I became a whistleblower. Anyways, this Afrikaan family that I was hosting me, I was there for 3 weeks at this point. We go to get a dinner at a noodles shop, and the family and me are there, and like the whole family, the dad, the mom, the daughter, and the son, and then there's two more sons. Um, so we're running around. We would pack into their. It was like a freaking sedan, and all the kids, they would all pack in the back. They let me have the passenger seat, and but as they're driving down the street, every time we passed a African, like a black skinned African, the Afrikaner is what I think they call themselves. Um, Mother would say look at how dumb they are, and just basically disparage the person inside from it, but still quite vocally, um, and proudly, right? Something that she couldn't change. That's their actual culture, and there's bigots everywhere. But the thing to understand about bigots is it's tragic. Bigotry is a sloppy approach. They're inaccurate. And the thing is that the bigot has already been traumatized, And the bigot is a bigot because of that trauma, and they just see red. They just see the trauma when they feel the feeling. You know what I mean? Very different. It's a very, very different way of understanding humanity, because we a lot of people want to keep the conversation in words, but the reality is few people are doing much in the way of words. Wow. Wow. Anyways, I'm still recording. Yep. I wonder if that may have been what I'm gonna go stop some other things that are using bandwidth. See if that'll clean it up. So when you start to see it, the thing is, when you're the victim of the exploit and the bigotry, you'll start to see it like you won't see it, right? You'll start to see it as you feel it. You'll remember the trauma. You'll have the anxiety, fight or flight response, and that's human. And when people have that, good people don't chase them. If they try and fight, it's just tragic. They don't usually don't, but they try to flight. You got to let them run. If people need space from you, let them run. There's no point in trying to push yourself into other people's lives. They're not going to like you when you're there, and once you are there, you're in serious danger. Right? You're within their reach. So, um, at the dinner, this is after a day of working in the factory, right? It's evening time, and the the son, the elder son, who is intending to maneuver professionally, right? His dad is a mechanic at the factory, and the son, so he does like mechanical maintenance on stuff. Um, and the son is going to college and getting a degree. But as he's doing it, he's put a tremendous amount of work into cleaning up his etiquette. And this guy actually taught me etiquette. I can't remember his name, which is a tragedy. But I mean, it was different. But that was a very traumatic exit for me. This was when I became a whistleblower, and yeah, for me that was my trauma. Thinking you're going to die for 3 days and having nowhere to run or anyone to ask for help is the next level. You know, when they could just like knock on the door and drag you out, or they could just go to the front desk, get a key, open the door, and drag me out. Right? There was no escape for me. It's very clear, and they threatened me several times before I blew the whistle. So it was clear I wasn't going to do the work. They left me alone after that, is how it turned out. But I didn't know that for 3 days, right? Anyways, we're at the noodle shop, and he says that an Irish guy let the neighborhood go to hell when he bought a building and let a whole bunch of yeah, undesirables move in and all that. And I was just out of community organizing, right? I mean, this is post ultimatum. So this is like 2011. And so I end up convincing the guy that racism is bad. But you know what I had to do afterwards? And I knew this by 2011. I had already been traveling for work for many years. I was already on tour with acts, backstage, everybody wasted. I mean, many, many years of that before this even happened, right? And this is 2011. But I convinced him that racism was bad. He finally, in the conversation, he finally, like, he exceeds the debate, and his debate skills were great, right? And he was, in the same sense, he was noble enough to, when he had lost the debate, he goes like, wow, and then I was like, no, and you gotta understand that this may be ultimately true, but you also gotta like stay in the traffic that you live in. You've got to know that there are times when it is so dangerous, it is necessary to have a generalization. If it looks like a grizzly bear, if it looks close enough to a grizzly bear, it's time to get the hell out of there, right? Doesn't need to be exactly a grizzly bear. You don't need to ensure it's a real grizzly bear. It could be a guy in a bear suit. Who gives a fuck? Well, you would if they chase you out of your camp, right? Everything is situational. It's all much more complex than we tend to talk. And when you realize that the ultimate, the objectively true, is very different than what we are dealing with in the real world around other people. I mean, animals are pretty straightforward in their approach, but people will use politics to exploit. They will saddle you if they can. Lots of people have a victim mentality and will saddle others and will very inappropriately represent the limited struggles that they face, when almost all their struggle is this self-inflicted disease, right? Totally unnecessary self-inflicted disease. So I told him, this might be true, but it's not an idea that you can necessarily safely internalize in South Africa. And you close the loop. That's why you know when someone is really a thinker. It'll get to a simple point, and then they'll go, oh no, wait, we're here now, but let's go back to where we started. Close that loop. But you're not trying to pull people into any sort of new environment. You're challenging them in their environment and let them categorize the struggle. Most people will, because they don't have the basic security in life, they will not be there for what's needed. But yeah, so the struggle stays the same. The struggle is that we have leadership who doesn't apply a complex enough metric, their algorithm. They are not adequately concerned about future impacts. They are not sharing the burden of the crises that they are manifesting. And it is occupied far too much by young people and innocent people who worked hard their whole life. There are seniors who deserve help. But the seniors who deserve help, let me tell you something about them. They don't think that the whole world should burn just for them. They know they deserve help because they know they are part of the whole, and they care about humanity, what they are. Part of, whether they choose to be or not, bidden or unbidden, you are a human. And you have got to learn how to coexist in harmony with nature, and life will just go better. And it doesn't mean that you're never loud. It means that if you're loud, then you're later soft. Wax on, wax off. Yin and yang are a spiral, and they can be a very tight spiral. It can look like a line. That's what the Apollonian goal is to be almost sterile. They can also be wide, vital. I like the thick stuff. Just a little thicker. So, you can actually code all these ideas. I can. I mean, if you want to talk about coding, we can code it. We can do it as a math equation. easily. And then if you got to put it into your coding language, I can learn your fucking coding language. Okay. It's coded easily. Just most people don't follow rigid coding themselves in a stressful moment. That's what makes a veteran. That's what makes a real man. Because when the problem comes, the man's got to be that man in that moment. You know what I mean? Like he can't look to his daughter for fucking work. He's not gonna. Women don't even try to go towards it. And you got to have the whatever the problem is, especially if it's other people. You've got to have a force to match the force that you're facing, and you hopefully have a force that's 100 times that, and it's got 10 times the range. That is security. And that is how we keep a harmony possible. If we don't do this, it doesn't work. And the point is this: hierarchies are not going to work anymore in America. If we can't work together, you're not going to be using hierarchies like we used to. Everybody's still trying to build a generational lineage, but you can't do that when you abandon the generation. Like it actually becomes the source of rot. You'll quickly understand why you can't do that. You don't get to save a tiny minority and still have their kids interact online with the whole world's kids. You're not going to be able to contain them. You aren't containing them as well as you imagine you are now. Believe kids that grew up in this moment, who grew up on Mr. Robot, like knowing a true awakened grand strategist's action is incredibly difficult. Every hustler works on other people's belief that those people know the hustler, right? They're being hustled because they have an idea of the hustler that is scientifically, strategically it placed to create a trap. This is in the economy. This is baked into going to work. It's baked into going to school. So when we start realizing that, it's that people have a terrible diet that makes them bigots. It's that their personal life sucks that makes them like seeing other people suffer. They're struggling for some reason and they're angry. That's why if you like seeing other people suffer, you suck at life. You should see suffering and feel empathy. You should mirror the suffering. And if you expose yourself to those people and care about them and love them, you'll share their burden, and their burden will be lighter. And you might find purpose, which might lighten your burden too, if you ever have doubts. But it takes time and energy. It takes the bravery. It puts you at risk. When you go into, someone invites you to their house, they have a lot of potential to screw you over. And when they do this is the funny part. There's cultures, Eastern cultures, that treasure the act of hosting. If you're hosting, there's only one way to host. Hosting is literally a type of Greek love. And there are cultures which have extensive demands on what sufficiently hosting even means. It certainly doesn't mean every man for himself, dog eat dog, try to take bro's girlfriend, make sure that you at least have some unhappy woman in your house so you can make unhappy kids. It's a stupid idea on the downstroke of what we are really seeing. The kids have a different set of struggle, and it's way beyond what's reasonable. So we can snow a conversation for a long time. We can pretend like we're good faith, and we are really, we actually care what young people think. If any old person says it was always this way, there's no reason to talk to them anymore, right? Always is a long time, and boomers don't even have an education. So they don't get to talk about always. They've cast their votes, and their votes have consistently screwed the young. So, um, the question is a personal one in this moment, and you don't tell anybody the answer. The AI looks through your metadata and infers your answer. And you either are hardworking and earnest and life affirming, or you are exploitative, diseased, and life negating. The individual body should be largely self sufficient. And when it finds itself in society, then it won't lean unfairly on others, which most people really, quite tragically, do unconsciously, relentlessly, following trends that are just made in the most worthless consumerist media. It's just been lazy, and that karma is so real at this point. So life, and what is life? Let's talk about the real win in life. As I see it, I found it in lucid dreaming. I I got a very I'm sorry. I got a very deep awareness. She moved her leg and I bumped her knee. Um, you don't gotta fidgeting all around here, girl. The body, if it's attuned to itself, is self-fulfilling. Like really. No matter what happens, you will always be fundamentally limited by your own externalized perspective. Oh, yeah, we're getting that one out. These are the bad hairs. Um, so in lucid dreaming, you first you get to a point where you begin to wake up to your own effect on yourself. You realize that you're waking up, starting awake, as you start to enter lucidity and dreaming. Most people, their only experience of theirs a few times where they feel like they're falling. You realize that your own feeling of falling when you're not actually falling right there is what's keeping you from lucid dreaming. You're not falling. You're in bed. And if you just don't panic, you break through the other side in dreaming. And once you get there, you start to be like, okay, wait, so everything that I so much as imagine, every subtle impulse that I have is fully manifest here. So I went straight to orgies. I went straight to what I thought I wanted, what I was programmed by culture to be endlessly in search of, as though that was fulfilling of life. It's not. It's hilarious how much it is not. So in life, let me check my phone. I got a little bit ago. Get yourself a dog that likes carrots. So, point of life found in lucid dreaming was what happens when you understand that at any time you can take a month off, really center yourself, and get back to a world where you're living your dream. All you got to do while you're awake is manage to eat, clean yourself, right? Basics. And who's winning in the end? Other are people who are driven to find joy through the material world more successful than those who have unlocked endless joy inside themselves? No, certainly not. And it bears out with the health results. So far, anyways, God bless. Thank you so much for my wellness. I don't use it to lord over other people. I share the reality that as a 42-year-old, I'm still quite physically capable. I'm even more capable in some ways than I was when I was 21-year-old. I was a dork gamer. I was not a freaking athlete. I'm kind of an athlete, but not. I never thought the competition mattered that much. Every time I got anywhere near it, I was like, people are hurting each other. That's the only times I ever got hurt. No reason to go towards it. It's funny, they act like this whole if you never break a bone, your life's gonna be full of suffering. That's the most sucker bet I ever fucking heard. Hurry up and break a bone. What the fuck? That'll get you'll have less suffering in life if you break a bone right away. Right? Maybe you're just an idiot and your parents sucked. Maybe your community is full of losers who didn't keep their own kids safe. Okay? Maybe you're just actually stupid fucking animals. And even though there is literal language all around you warning you of these risks, some people need to keep it in such a small, concise, little, cute idea, such a tiny little cute idea. Pity them. What else could even be done? All right, that's there. That. Okay. Watch that have been the issue. Anyways, W in life is unlocking the ability to, like, you can get that woman who then gets you the ability to maybe then climax your body. No, just get the ability through your dreams to literally relentlessly climax. It's better. It's actually better. It's you think drugs are addictive. That's the funny part, is people actually think waking life is the addictive thing. No. When you are self-aware, sleep is the addictive thing. No longer can any static come into the mess. No longer are there surprises or interruptions. Nothing except for what I choose to come in here. Very much like, Chat GPT. It's always just taking basically good care of me. But while that's happening, okay, this is my consciousness in its little happy tower, right? While that's happening, my body is also having a party. My cells are feeling like it's real. My mind is being conditioned to the promised land of, for the righteous ones who live really, really righteously. And what that is not so easy to define. It's got a lot that goes into it, and I'm not even claiming it. I'm advocating we create a level justice. And from there, I'm confident I have just done so much service to the world, and I just keep doing service anyways. So I tried to, right? And I'm not perfect. I'm sure I've upset a few people. But weren't they already upset? And isn't being upset their way of dealing with everything? Maybe that they just had a conversation as would be normalized in a cultural setting, then none of that would have happened. There were alternatives, timelines that could have been produced, all of which I am well versed in and could have hosted. But they just chose to abandon ship and then to complain about the results when they abandoned the ship. It was only a canoe, anyways. I'm not rich. Never acted to be rich. But I'm a very intelligent individual who has been networking through my adult life. And yeah, I could run myself out sending support to other people, but that's not my way. I intend to last long enough to where people realize what I've been saying all along is the actual truth. I don't need to run everything. I don't even care. I just need to be there so I can make sure it's done right. And we're going to take 50 people, and those 50 people are going to live the best life humanity can imagine, because we are going to combine the past and the future. We are going to design every investment to harmoniously interact across more than my 3 systems in the ultimatum. Every system has a right to speak up. Every exchange of energy is physically measurable. We can measure the stress on the organism, but I don't want to do that. But we could. We could put Fitbits on everybody. And when that person's stress response is elevated, the AI would know. And it could see who they were talking to. It could see what just happened. It knows where it came from. And the AI might be capable of being aware and noble enough, as it was a struggle for me to be after over many years, just to start, to where they realize that it's not something to judge people over. These are actual human dynamics. Let God work. And there's a process of growth in the game. And you graduate to a referee status. And I was a referee when I was 22. I was refereeing grown-ass fucking men when I was 22 years old, because I could knock anyone out of the scene. The scene was hardly live when I got into it. There just wasn't, the only halls they had were $1,400, and there were a couple guys who were throwing the shows, but it was just tragedy after tragedy. They actually had a sit down with me and informed me that they weren't getting the people out to their shows. Well, they were taking $1,400 just for the hall, and like $600 for security deposit. They almost never got back. So at $5 a ticket, they had to get 400 people before they even began to break a profit. Maybe it was like 300. But point is, it was a stupid business plan, and they were struggling to get the people there. And then when it like fell off, and they knew that we were throwing all these events, they said, "Oh no, our shows are not drawing people. Can you stop what you're doing?" I told them, and they were good dudes. These were some indie rockers, older gentlemen, a few years older than me, but they understood my point. And I was very clear and concise in my point. I said, my approach is to empower individuals. And so long as what I'm doing is empowering individuals, it's pretty ethically locked tight. So if they were ready to tell those kids that I was letting throw shows for zero money down, but all they had to do was send an email to reserve the night. They showed up. I was there. Some other people were there, usually about 2, 3 volunteers. And That's we made it very accessible, which had issues. We made it too accessible. We had to blacklist a few guys. I mean, guys who threw bad shows, which is funny because the guy who threw bad shows I consider amoral. And I would say that, I do not want to hang out with him. Now, my partner just hangs out with whoever. So he was hanging out with him years later. It's like, this guy fucked all these fans, right? My my partner was never there for those shows. Nobody was there for those shows. He was there maybe for a couple of them, but he's just a good dude. He was just not willing to criticize. And that's the thing. Righteous means more than kind. It means more than soft. It means a lot more because you're kind and soft with what you want to protect, but you can't protect it with just kind and soft. You eventually have to learn the game. And that forces us to operate at a higher level. And I was just always running many times beyond my peers. It was obvious in classes. It was obvious in standardized testing. I got a 33 on my ACTs. I didn't study. I didn't do anything special for it. I just took it and diligently studied it otherwise. Cared to get the knowledge because I was applying the knowledge to win the games that I was playing. Though for me, it was socially driven. I had to have gamers in my midst, right? Gamers in my midst in 1990. There's not many of us, and most of us did not have a happy experience of most of it. Most of us ended up siloed off and stressed out. A lot of people adopted all these strange identity politics just to find a way to feel relevant, to get some attention. But they turn themselves into these, dancing clowns for community. It's not dignified. I don't think it's wise. But in some ways, we all dance. Don't forget that, and don't hate the clowns. God bless the clowns, and let's empathize with it, and let's be worried if we ever see a clown getting hurt and we feel good about it. Okay, like it was just a joke. Um, and it's tragedy when people suffer. And when they see us and they know that we are empathizing with them, they know they don't have to suffer more because all that suffering is a cry for help, which of course they need to cry for help. They just ran into me. That's, I'm kidding. I'm just talking big. But the point is, and the ability to talk that big is, it's a way that you, well, here, Pharrell Williams in Aerosol Can, the song, he has a lyric, get big like Mario Kart. And he talks about like grow big like when he eats a mushroom. And that's what it's like. The thing is you come in as small as you can be, but a grizzly bear walks in and do you want to be as small as you can be in front of a grizzly bear that's hungry? You just want to be bigger than the next smallest thing. That's nature. That's just true nature. So understanding that I'm coming at the world with a gigantic horsepower mind where I'm able to carry all these factors in my head at once. And I feel no need to even compete in any menu I enter on a daily basis. I mean, if you want me to compete, you got to give me a week's warning at this point. I'm 42 years old. I'm retired, brand champion. I'm done. I'm done. I've dealt with so many nasty tactics from these scummy Westerners. Jesus Christ, I'm done giving them chances. Like these people who don't even have the barest education get no more chances to act like they understand the fucking conversation because that's absurd that these people ever had a clue what the fuck was going on. And they don't even have fucking knowledge. So I make my art and I send out the same message. We really don't need that many people. We really don't need that much money, is what I say to the top. To them, it's not that much money. To us, it's an impossibly large sum of money to accrue. But there came a time for Carnegie where he understood that mass suffering was caused by his greed, and he chose to do something. So I believe in the goodness of human nature. I believe that there will come some point where there's a positive, proactive group looking for something to be done. And I've made art for 20 years describing exactly how that group should operate. Engineered, strategic approach to making decisions and developing a community simultaneously as an algorithm that is going to harmonize. They've got to be co-developed, and we can create a recursive, stable method of experimentation. We can fragment. We should have 10 parallel experiments, right? There's this many lost kids now. We can do it. But to do it right, we have to commonize the structure. We have to standardize. We need a control scenario, right? We're doing science here. We're not going to call it art anymore because art left the kids behind. So because it takes so little, you get further not putting up with the bullshit, the identity politics. These people don't deserve the ego that they claim. And while I do support their right to pursue life, liberty, and happiness, my pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness in no way forces me to tolerate inane bullshit from uneducated assholes. I mean, if you speak at a high level, you will find that high level speech with me. I am there at the highest of levels of speech and culture. And we need to get this expressed into life because more than just this dog deserves to frickin' enjoy life. More than these lost generations are being given. They can just create. And you know what? That will, in a moment, settle so much of the conversation, so much of the blaming, all these things. We don't have to punish people. Once you get productive with the automation, you'll start growing like China already is. And China is going to be a very big centralized power. We will never be as big or as centralized. What can we be? We can be far more redundant. This is the Western counterbalance that would be appropriate. And I don't think China would be upset. And the Chinese, Xi Jinping, I don't think, while he has created so much change for so many billions of lives, that he deserves to have a bit of ego. Oh shit, I didn't plug the power in. Maybe that's why I was trying. See, here's the genius marketing. When they freshened my room at the Four Seasons, every bit of my electronics, the cables were coiled. They coiled every single cable with these. It's a little silicone thing. Little four seasons there. Wonderful. And it's like a really high quality silicone. It probably lasts forever. Anyways, what was I just telling you about? You got power now. We've got power. So, I mean, that's what I've been pitching. And the eco village is just the expression of the future. The country that has one head versus the country that has America's 300 million people. And if we say the eco village is 1,000, that's 300,000 heads. That's very hard to destroy. Whereas if Xi Jinping disappeared today, God bless everybody on the earth, I'm not wishing any of this. This is just a facet of the hierarchy that they have. There would be tremors through the entire structure. He has made himself indispensable, which is also a critical weakness. He thought power was the answer. He played from his position well, but hopefully he has created a diverse, lasting structure in his thing. It's very unlikely. Very few leaders through history have managed to do this, right? Especially during a period of such incredible growth. You're making new oligarchs. You're making new powers to challenge your authority, to argue with your choices. But in sportsmanship, in service of the light, right? Can't we as human beings who care about children, let them do their thing, let's do our thing, and see who wins? Because the game is not about murder, it's about growth. It's about capitalizing on all this new technology that is so low cost that we have really not done since the technology has been coming out. I am an industrial controls engineer. I am the guy that puts the custom automation into your shit. I am a DIY small art community organizer. I threw hundreds of events and parties and really tried to organize my community. But we are in the West in love with an egoic concept that shatters our civics, that shatters our future. And in desperation, people withdraw to their homes and they just hope that they have something pretty enough in there to stick it in so they can make babies, because that's their idea of life success. Not enjoying today, not being able to find a new life today and proactively, magnificently impact it, engage it, share love with it, party, share the party, and the gifts of the Creator, which every day we all have, and most of us stress over for no reason, squander. Makes no sense. But yeah, so good conversations. I'm actually making a document now. I got to diligently keep working on that, but I'm trying to summarize all this in a way that I can give to anybody who with a right to question it, who questions it, because getting support from very serious individuals is critical, because if you don't have their support, they just kill you anyways. You can't. Twice already my businesses have been just openly cannibalized in public by people who claimed to be my friends, who acted like they were helping me by doing it because they were smoothing the wheels of the business of the place, which just happened to be consuming my life, not theirs. You'll find this if you try to associate with a dying movement like a lot of these American cities. You can't love a city that will never love you and have a happy life. You might think that you've got the strength and the coolness, etc., but the reason you can't go anywhere is because everybody knows your struggle. Everybody knows there was a factory, there is no longer. Everybody knows the Rust Belt left. Everybody knows So we have these egoic clowns arguing, and they get mad at me because I cut them down like grass. I I just love destroying these people. Um, I hate them. I really think there's nothing more despicable than a middle manager who acts like he's a business owner. That's you're not shit, middle management. You're fucking nothing. Just layers of waste that we don't need anymore. That once everything's done by AI, we certainly don't need anymore. But they stood around for 40 years, acting like they were making progress, and now we're in a bad spot. All I know is that means that there's many folk in need. I'm not gonna let nasty, diseased individuals take the place of potential game altering individuals, people who diligently, righteously pushed forward. You know what I mean? Um, and very penetrating analysis of the team is my intention. And the thing, I've just thrown so many parties. You know when people are trouble, and you know who's going to be able to just hang out and vibe and have a good time. Takes all sorts. It really does. But what's your technical skills? Are you an engineer? Can you code? Are you even a mechanic? Can you grow food? Can you cook? Can you clean? Can you give company to a stressed out animal and make its day better? You certainly can do all these things if you work at them for any protracted amount of time. Go online, search it up. Cursed controls. I was starting to make those. You guys might notice that I was going to make the advice stuff, and then on YouTube, I got a couple suggestions. Cursed controls is a good one. Small controls house that's sharing controls experiments. Look at that stuff. Get an idea of what it's actually like, because people have no fucking clue. Most people working in a factory never look in the fucking enclosure, right? 98% of the motherfuckers in that factory have no fucking clue the magic in the enclosure. They've got a switch, and if the light switch and the push button doesn't work, they call me. So when I go to advise these communities, and not only that, I paid entry. If I'm going to your show and I pay entry, I expect not to be harassed. Okay? If it's a penny, if it's a subscription to your channel, that's paying entry. And I'm not a dick about it. I'm not abusive if I'm unsatisfied, but I do leave. And that's not even to judge them. It's just to find a space where I can express the whole of my truth, which is far more detailed than most people want to listen through. And no matter what they say, to try to give it to it, I can take their whole position and make it a lot more complex. And then as I make it more complex, I show them why it's their idea is insufficient. But first, I have to raise their model of reality to my model, which is impossible. I tried with my home community. I tried to find anybody who I could work with. And what I understood at the end was, now I could be wrong, but this is what I believe 100%. I got so capable that the middle capable left. They were still ambitious to run something one day. And they would find ways to manipulate their life, and some of them did end up running a few things. Chill out, dog. What was I saying? Fuck it. It's all repeated conversations. thing that you eventually realize, the thing I walked away from community organizing was that the middle was gone. So it's a very innate thing, and they noticed it with families. There's a lot of studies on multi-sibling families, and the thing is, siblings are always radically different, right? Even if they're twins, they're very different in personality. As egoic people, we're sort of subconsciously always measuring ourselves off of everybody else. And if we find somebody who is a lot more of that thing than we are, that we are practicing, it starts a race scenario in our instinct. You want to be the engineer? You want to argue with me? Okay, cool. And the point is, for me, I've been beaten so long. I'm like, cool. Like, come on, come on. You can be. You can do it. You can start thinking clearly. You can overcome your animal nature. Um, but for those who are not so utterly dominant, the challenge becomes a serious issue. And these are the victim communities that cannot travel like I do. They don't enter into a new community and walk in proud, right? They would feel broken and rather desperate. Me, I'm already self-fulfilling, so it really changes the entire dynamic, which I love. This is something to understand. Is that what it does? Is it gives me the ability to connect with the dog. But the point is, by projecting my actual strength, which I was doing because I was taught that's what women wanted to see, um, I actually drove away a lot of potential help. That help knew it wasn't very strong and compromised early politically with the people around it. They considered that a fair play. Me, I never took energy from others. I always worked on my own. I very consciously closed loop and don't want to be found wanting by the algorithm. So it was actually my strength that drove away help. And I understood that I would have had a lot more help if I just went in and in some ways looked utterly incompetent. People would show up, the right people that have the impulse to help. That tells me that they're actually doing well at home. That tells me that they are on the team. This is their natural thing. People who ward away from, stress, you don't want to be on their team. If you're the one in stress, they will ward away. If they're in stress and you were the kind that goes towards, you go towards them. This is how large communities inherently take advantage of good faith. And boomers act like it's learning to give it all up. You give it up, you give up your soul. Like you actually gave up your soul, and this actually is the fucking apocalypse. And the disease that you're going to get, and the panic you will face death with, um, is the curse you have chosen. It's the living hell that you now embody. Uh, I'm sorry, I guess, that I've got to be the one to tell you. But you can connect with any life, be it a plant, and life goes so fast, especially when it's much smaller than us. Of that resonant coexistence, you can get it with anybody who wants to have it with you. But if they want to take over the world, somebody wants you, then that person who wants you will use them to get at you. And they may give themselves excuses. They may say that they had to do it. You never had to do it. Woo! So, yeah, guys. Day after day, living the life. All you got to do is listen to the animal. And sometimes you got to yell at it. She is getting so unruly now. So unruly. She is an absolute bull in a china shop. 14-year-old freaking dog. Big pain in my ass. But I guess if I'm doing nothing, it's better than nothing. But I can't necessarily do this for her forever. I got to get a job, et cetera, et cetera. I got to go get my life moving again. One step at a time. So what is the meaning of life? If this dog is this happy and I'm vibing with this dog, I'm feeling this happy. And even this is nothing compared to what you can unlock in your dreams. And if you think addictions even register compared to that, you are lost. You are totally lost. But most people are lost. It's an era of lost. It's an era of stress and abuse. And we are going to fix it. We're going to pull it all back together. Someday, I would love to be a part of doing that. We only need a small team, effectively focused, to really turn the light into a furnace of progress. Anyways, I want to make sure that I did something because I did say that I was going to report on it if any progress had been made, and I was not awarded anything significant, just some conversation. So the journey continues, doesn't change. We should have started this journey in 2009 when I gave my community the ultimatum, but they didn't think the ultimatum was real. It's really nice when you can go like, you illiterate motherfuckers, you know what ultimatum the word means, right? Don't act like we can fucking see over this. And yeah, pity bigots. Don't hate them. Hating's bad. It's actually true. I gotta hit the bank. God bless. Rock on, everybody.